Hold on, let me see. Could be bed bugs.
Oh. Mom, Grant says I have bed bugs.
Let's see what the doctor says.
Introducing Covenant Virtual Care. Real-time video doctor visits, e-prescriptions, and follow-up. Now extraordinary care comes to you.
See, it's just poison ivy. Smart advanced.
Learn more at covenantvirtualcare.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to our pregame show. Covenant Healthcare sponsored on BCTV. Jeff Doan and Sean Sullivan along with you at Thomas Lincoln Handy, home of the Bay City Central Wolves, and they are entertaining John Glenn. And you know, Sean, before we get started in soccer, let's have a flashback here because we both have some fond memories on this field.
It's been a while, Jeffrey. Let's see. You're a little bit older than I am.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, I know. The last time I played here as a high school student was, it would be the fall of 1982 on this very field.
Now, after that, you came back, and a few more years maybe. Did you do any of the training after that?
Yeah,
here?
I did. Back in the 80s for the Wildcats for a couple of years, and then after that, 1 year at Bay City Central, and then went over to the alma mater, Bay City All Saints, for about 18 years. And then I've been around town doing different things back and forth, and do a little soccer coaching too, which is not normal. I'm a football guy.
Well, you just
like most of us are.
Branch out into many things, but
it's all good. It's
now
all good.
With me in 1978, then shortly after I graduated, had the opportunity to do the public address here for many years. And then came a day in my officiating career when I walked out onto this field and I ran into a guy named Coach Tom Sullivan. You might be vaguely familiar with him.
A little bit.
And he says to me, Jeff, he goes, do you realize what an honor it is to have you here today? And I thought, well, Tom, you know, I know you think highly of me, but you don't need to stroke me. He goes, no, do you know the significance of this game today? And he told me that I was officiating the first intermediate school game on this field, which made it even a ton more fun.
Yeah, you bet. Actually, I forgot about that. I have been back here to do some handy middle school games also.
All right, so now we're going to get into the other reason we're here today after we've gone down memory lane, and we're going to talk about a soccer program between these two schools. Central with 3 wins on the year, John Glenn with 2 wins on the year. Both young clubs, both learning, both getting better week by week, and progress is how you chart the success of a season.
Yeah. It's not an easy sport. It's definitely a team sport. Our feelings here in Bay City for a while is that soccer it's a growing sport. It's been growing for a long time. We are not in Macomb County. We're not in Oakland County. We're not in Washtenaw County, where soccer is queen or king, depending on male or female. So we're learning here, and it's not easy. I've coached some pretty high-level soccer in this area for the last 10, 12 years, and it's not easy. It's not getting kids out to play sometimes, and we take our lumps. We take our lumps against the Midland crews and the teams from down south, and it's just the way it is.
You look, though, on any given Saturday, though, you go out behind the Bay ISD, and you see that there is hope for the future because those fields are packed.
Absolutely, yes. And they've been packed, and that's a good thing. We need more quality coaches. We need more quality participation. We're still kind of like a baseball, softball area here. Soccer is just kind of one of those sports.
Well, and I think keeping kids interested is the key. They're all, as youngsters, love playing the game, but it's to get that core group to continue playing that's the challenge.
Yes, it is. And I will say probably between Coach Jacobs and Coach Sisler, it's not easy at Central and John Glenn because that's the way it is.
Well, it's going to be fun. It should be two very evenly matched teams. We know they're well coached, and we're looking forward to a great ball game. So we'll be back in just a minute with all the action. Bay City Central girls soccer and the John Glenn Bobcats. Back in a minute.
Over the years, he's put his heart into being your dad. He was always there to fix things. Now that he needs help, don't lose hope. Covenant Center for the Heart is leading the way in minimally invasive heart options for inoperable or high-risk patients, with the first and most comprehensive structural heart disease program in the Great Lakes Bay region. It's extraordinary heart care, close to home.
As the ladies from John Glenn are going to start out trying to get things going, and when we talked to Coach Todd, one of the first things he talked about is just trying to maintain possession to set up plays in the offensive zone. And we'll see today as that team continues to progress, but very young ball club. And, of course, Larry Jacobs on the other side is no stranger to anybody in Bay City.
Yes.
So we've got the defenders and we've got midfielders and we've got offensive attackers. Are those the three categories
Yeah, in a general sense, your defenders are split between central defenders and outside defenders, and then midfielders, I like to call them center mids and outside mids, and then we've got attacking forwards. There might be some different sense of, or different words, holding forwards, holding mids, holding defenders, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, what we differ from what we saw with lacrosse is when the ball goes out of the field to play in lacrosse, it's the person closest to the ball gets possession. Here, that's a turnover if you kicked the ball or possessed it last before it went out of bounds.
Right. It's interesting.
So they just had one of those situations and tossed the ball back in, and Central trying to kick that ball back over. And the field is basically the size of the football field, including the end zones, as that ball is knocked out of bounds, and we'll go back over to Bay City Central. So talk about the official with his flag in the air, and he waves it once, and is that just to designate the spot of the throw-in?
Yeah, if he's pointing in a certain direction, obviously it's going either blue or white. Nice shot.
And the goalie just gets down on knees and chooses to smother it. Now the circle that she's in is a safe zone for her?
Yes. She can touch the ball with her hands inside the goalie box, which is the 18-yard line to wide out here. And she's sort of protected inside the 6-yard box.
So you got a box inside of a box.
Yes, yes.
So the 6-foot box is pretty much sacred territory.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on who's officiating.
So it's subject to interpretation.
There's a lot of interpretation at times, yes.
So John Glenn in blue as they kick the ball to midfield. And that's Dakota Cunningham that kicked the ball to midfield. Bay City Central gets it. Dakota Cunningham kicks it back. But trying to maintain possession in the offensive end, again, has been one of the goals of both coaches as Bay City Central's number 10 cruises in, and I do not have a name for that young lady.
Megan Grew.
Megan Grew, all right.
Yep.
Then she changed to jersey. So that's – oh, they did change that up top. So she is the former number 2. Now she's number 10. She looks like she's got some talent.
Yeah, she's pretty skilled. Couple of these girls I recognize from playing some travel ball, pretty high-level travel ball, in fact. I know that Megan and I think there's at least one other girl play for local clubs that are actually Midwest regional level clubs, which is pretty high up, pretty skilled competition.
So other than the goalies being in their box, being able to touch it with their hands, the only other time is when the ball's out of bounds, you get a throw in?
Right.
That's
right.
the only other times they're able to use their hands. That's got to be tough teaching kids, You're so every other sport seems to be hand-oriented.
Yes, definitely. And a lot of people will scream that was a handball, that was a handball, that was handball. The unintentional play from somebody's hand, if it just accidentally runs into it, it's not necessarily a handball. Again, interpretation. Some refs will call it, some won't.
So then it's consistently, inconsistently called.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a rules we call in soccer. We call advantage. If it's a play that does not necessarily increase the advantage for one side or the other, most refs will let it play.
Play on.
Yeah, play on. Soccer is kind of unique that way. There are no timeouts. So we're going to play a 40-minute half and a 40-minute half. And there will be the only stoppage of play is if someone is hurt, or we get lightning or something like that.
Well, and the girls hope for no stoppages of play because the only way to stay warm is to keep moving.
Yes, no kidding.
And there was some extra work done as we have got sliding forward with an opportunity. Kellen Blankhorn had an opportunity, was just kicked away at the last second. And another stop by the goalie. I don't believe that's considered a save, though, because that's outside the bar. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's, again, interpretive. I guess the save is if you were not in the goal, if the ball were to slide over the goal line and be a goal, then it's considered a save.
There's a great move offensively by
nice
number
shot.
20, Hunter Kukla. She had a nice opportunity and a good move.
It's first shot for John Glenn.
So as long as they stay inside their box, they can throw it, they can kick it.
Yep.
Attempted header by Bay City Central's Megan Grew. Kellen Blancourt coming just. Oh, she might have pulled up a little bit limp there as she's going to try and run it off, but I think she really held up on her kick because I think her follow-through might have got the goalie in the face. So
I think you're right.
Good spot of sportsmanship on her part, and she's going to have to run that off. Kellen loves to run, so she's no stranger to getting up and down the field. Again, as defensively, John Glenn packs it in, and the goalie with another stave for the Bobcats. And obviously, with the wind today, it's going to be a factor in the ball game. It's 15 to 20 mile an hour winds.
It will definitely affect opposite ends of the field in opposite ways. That's a well-driven
Hunter
ball.
Kukla down in the corner. Good defense by Central to get back. That is number 14, Isabel Baranski. That ball out of bounds will be deemed a side out.
You got me there, Jeff.
I believe that's what they do with that.
It's a throw-in.
Throw-in from the side.
Yeah.
Has now tried to come back down. John Glenn with the defense. Jessica Herrick trying to go, and a little minor contact results in a turnover. Little love taps out there.
Yeah.
These girls love to have a little contact from time to time.
If we're going to have contact, keep your hands at your sides.
Yes, indeed.
Use your hips.
And try and act like it's an accident. So again, good defense again as they cut off the angle and then stole the ball. Back into the offensive zone comes Bay City Central. That's Cassidy Berry kicking that ball, and it goes to the sideline and kept in play. That is Larissa Navarez. And again, defensively, when you have an opportunity where you feel threatened, so to speak, you can just kick that ball out of bounds, make sure your defense gets reset for another day.
Yep. It's kind of the easy way out, is to punch it.
Now, in a lot of these facilities, they've got 2 or 3 ball boys on the sideline. That ball will go that far out. They'll flip another one in and run and get it. But I don't know if they could have anybody that was interested in braving the cold enough to come and do that today. As John Glenn tries to get it over the midfield line, still having some trouble. The majority of this first half has been played down here in the Bay City Central offensive end. Kellen Blankhorn seems to have run off the leg issue that she had a little bit earlier. Just a touch of contact. Some thought could have been a
little advantage
issue. As that ball goes down, and the official down here doesn't maybe want to get caught too far to midfield in case something happens, so he's going to kind of meander down to the neighborhood and get a generalized spot.
Typically, the AR should be at the back line of the blue team.
So he should flow up and down so that he has got all the players in front of him.
He'll cover from midfield to the end line on this side, and then his partner over there is covering from midfield to the end line on the other side.
And they're both assistant referees with the main referee, and now could all 3 of them call penalties?
Yes.
And there's 2
the
cards.
The ARs can suggest.
I see.
They'll raise their flag, whip it around a little bit. Sometimes the center ref may or may not pay attention to them.
And what are the 2 penalties for infractions? Get 2 colored cards.
Oh, the yellow. Yellow's the cautionary kind of like
a warning.
Behave yourself. A red card is a red. There you go.
And it into the net.
Nice.
Defensively, Bay City Central's Isabel Baranski came out, could not get there in time, and the John Glenn Bobcats with the goal. And that is number 15 with the goal, Dakota Cunningham. She was in the right spot at the right time, and she scores. I don't know. Do you have one in you like they do over in Europe?
I was thinking about that, Jeffrey, and
they might hear it over on Warner.
Yeah, you're right. If I let one loose, if we have a game winner, I'll let loose with one.
All right, that'll be awesome.
This presentation of high school sports on Bay County TV is brought to you in part by Renew Physical Therapy, with 7 convenient locations in the Great Lakes Bay region, including Au Gres, Bay City, Frankenmuth, Freeland, Midland, Saginaw, and Shields. At Renew Physical Therapy, there is a difference.
So Central back in the offensive zone. That ball just past Blankhorn. They tried to get the offense going, and good defense by John Glenn as they try and clear that ball from their end of the field. Back up near midfield, Bay City Central again keeping the ball down. They've had the more shots on goal, but the only thing that matters is the ones that enter the net.
That's right. A little frustration, I'd have to believe, on the Bay City Central side. John Glenn has 2 shots on net and 1 went in.
And most generally this game is played on grass and not turf, because I would imagine that ball scoots a little bit too fast on AstroTurf or artificial.
Field turf makes the game a little bit different. Especially if you're not able to. Oh, she's on. There you go.
So it's onside.
Again.
And another goal by the John Glenn Bobcats. They've scored 2 in the last 60 seconds. As I'm waiting for that young lady to turn around, that is number 20, Hunter Kukla, as she picks up the goal. So 2 goals in about a 60-second span for the John Glenn Bobcats, and that gives them at this point, a commanding 2-0 lead.
Yes, it is. John Glenn's keeping it simple.
You don't need a ton of opportunities. You just need to capitalize when you get them.
That's right.
The Times Lofts in downtown Bay City is the area's newest and finest apartment living, with units that meet your every need, including stainless steel appliances. With prices starting at $850, there is something for everyone. To receive further information and find your dream loft, call us at 989-893-2000 or visit us on our website at thetimeslofts.com.
Both of those balls were momentary indiscretion moments for the goalie at Central, and when you have those moments and you're indecisive, that allows the offense to get into the zone, and they were able to make a play.
It doesn't take very long because, number one, it's a big field. There's a lot of width. A standard field is 110 yards long by 70 yards wide. And when you have 20 people on that field, there's a lot of space to cover, but there's a lot of space to move. When you're able to hit a soccer ball with some pace on it, 20, 30, 40 yards in the air, like that, nicely done. You definitely stretch the field, and you make your opportunities a lot greater.
You know, and they talk about the safety of sports. Soccer has always been, very recently especially, up near the top for concussions.
Yes, it is.
A lot of headers can just hit the wrong way, or
on
a cold day that ball's a little bit harder. But headers are part of the game, and you know, I don't know how you strengthen the frontal lobe to handle those blows.
Well, a few years ago, our research was showing that most of the injuries, at least head injuries in soccer, were caused by contact.
Okay.
Shoulder contact, head to shoulder contact, things like that. Well, we've kind of changed our thinking a little bit in the last few years to include, well, actually the projectile can actually cause some issues too. I think the ball is at 12 or 15 pounds of air pressure. So it's pretty solid. And when you send it from, that should be a handball. Thank you.
That should be a what?
That should be a handball.
Handball,
and it was.
Okay. So when you've got that, you know, my thinking is to try and safeten up the game, you know, a light skull cap. Is there any conversation towards leaning to something like that?
There is actually nothing that prevents a concussion. Helmets in football prevent skull fractures. That's pretty much it. So, you know, we've had some in the past, there's people that have sold the full 90 headgear. It's kind of a wraparound kind of thing, and it was to prevent concussions and et cetera, and it's really not that possible.
So if it's not real effective and it's expensive, then that would be two reasons why you wouldn't want to go that way.
Yeah.
Cunningham gets that ball taken away by Jenna Tilley. Tilley into the offensive zone, creating a little space right now as she heads down the sideline. Defense very well played that time by Julie Herrick. Ball out of bounds, goes back over to Bay City Central in the home white. But kind of impressed. There's 60, 70 people here at the game today, and under the conditions, it's nice to see a few people out enjoying Bay County soccer.
Yes.
Central gets that ball kicked, and that was Megan Grew, just a little bit wide of the goal. We do have a ball boy out there that's getting his exercise chasing down the ball. We have got 23 minutes left in our first half of play. So we're about halfway through that first half. 2-0, John Glenn on top over Bay City Central. And now we've got a substitute coming back into the ball game is Larissa Navarez. And she will be replacing Cassidy Berry. There's a nice solid kick. And that ball will go out of bounds, and he's not even going to point. I guess girls should just assume that's the way it went.
Assume, yeah.
So trying to get down the field. Grew's got a little bit of space, and we know she's got some talent. That ball gets kicked away by the defender, and it's back over to John Glenn. Central kind of has it circled, but a nice kick as Dakota Cunningham comes out. And now Cunningham frees the ball up. Bay City Central goes back on the offense. And any part of the leg, whether that's the knee or the foot, is legit. Kellen Blankhorn trying to slide around. Gets off a good solid shot, but the wind takes that and blows it wide of the goal. And it will be a kick in for John Glenn. Boy, that young boy is thinking that was a solid kick. He ran part way into that. I think I'll walk to get the rest of the way.
He's going to need dinner.
So again, approaching the halfway point of this first half. Girls soccer, Bay City Central in white. Bay City John Glenn in blue. As that ball with the header is knocked out of bounds, and we'll go back over to John Glenn once again. As again, John Glenn hasn't spent much time in the offensive zone, but they have certainly made the most of their rare opportunities.
Yes, they have.
They've picked up the 2 goals in this game and find themselves on top. Good defense by Navarez.
You can see that kind of both teams are playing a fairly deep defensive zone.
And are you limited? Can all 10 players offensively be
Basically,
on the offensive zone?
You can go wherever you want.
Okay. I know, like
if
in
you're
lacrosse,
fast enough.
Yes. You need that
you
recovery
can go wherever
time.
you want. Yeah.
That ball knocked out of bounds. And they're going to give the ball back to Bay City Central.
Technique-wise and coaching-wise, typically I like to have a kind of high-pressure defensive set. We'll play pretty high in terms of up in the face of the other team. Defender-wise, with some speed, they'll push up and actually become a offensive part of the rest of the unit.
Megan Grew just kicked that ball out of bounds, tried to get it to Kellen Blankhorn just a little bit out in front of her, so the ball goes out of bounds and throw in for John Glenn Bobcats. And when you see people like what Kellen Blankhorn just did, you know, there's a real art to stop that ball, to deaden it so that you can get it at your feet and have an opportunity to make something happen with it offensively. It's amazing the time that they spend trying to make things happen. Central just missed out on a pretty good offensive opportunity. Another ball kicked in that's just wide of the goal. And that's got to be a low kick, trying to kick it into the wind.
Yes.
Kicking it up high might go backwards. So again, ball staying for the most part on the Central end. They just have not had an opportunity to get one of those quality shot opportunities to go in. Grew with a little contact, and they play on. As they get the ball down, tried to get it to Kellen Blankhorn, just missed out. As the ball then goes to number 31, Julie Herrick. Central back on offense, just missed Blankhorn again. Nice job by the goalie, comes out. Picks it up, will stay inside her 18-yard box and kick it out near center field. Number 13 right now, Taylor Anderson, coming down the sidelines. Good defense by Bay City Central, and that is Isabel Baranski. Ball back on a throw-in on the side to John Glenn. That's going to be number 18 with that throw-in, Mackenzie Dorr. John Glenn with a quick substitution. Central with some players injured. They've got some players that are away at an event, so their bench is shortened a little bit. And, you know, talk for a minute about the physical conditioning that goes into these girls and what they've got to do.
Well, I've watched enough Premier League games when they put a pedometer on a player. And during a typical game, they're covering, I think it's 8 to 10 kilometers.
Wow.
So, yeah. soccer is it truly is an end-to-end game, and it is truly a game of movement. And when you move the way it could be played, it's nearly constant movement. There's a natural phenomena called inertia that it takes a lot more energy to stop and start a body versus keeping a body in motion. So in soccer, I try to tell my players, stay in motion. I don't care if you're walking, but stay in motion.
Just
because
move.
now you can be a lot more free to take off on a dead run or get somewhere instead of having your feet planted in the turf. So truly a game of motion, constant motion. Don't be caught flat-footed.
So I would think in your off season you'd want to run cross country.
That would be awesome.
That would
be awesome.
Teaching you that perpetual motion
Yes,
to
yes.
try and get through. Ball kicked into the central goal area. Nice easy save. Pretty nice kick going up, getting a little wind backing.
She's got the wind at her back.
So Grew gets it into the front half to Emma Miller. Miller just saves that ball. Kellen Blankhorn will get that ball back to number 12. Emma Miller.
That's my granddaughter's name.
Is it?
She's
she's
10
not
months.
this old, though.
No,
Yes.
she's 10 months.
Oh, I've seen pics. And yeah,
she's not able to walk yet, but it won't be long. And she will probably have a ball at her feet shortly.
She will be exposed to athletics.
Yes, I think she will. I think she will. I think I'm going to teach her how to play goalie because that's
fast track.
That's like an instant college scholarship.
Yep, if you can excel as the goalie, that is the fast track.
You betcha.
As John Glenn tries to make it happen again. And boy, if you just tune in, it's 2-0 John Glenn, but the majority of the game has been played on the central offensive end of the field.
Yeah.
As Kellen Blankhorn just missed out on that pass again. And shot off to the side. We'll go back over to the John Glenn Bobcats. We're at 14 minutes and change left in our first half. The Bobcats from John Glenn 2 and Bay City Central Lady Wolves nothing. On a brisk, to say the least, football type weather day for soccer.
Day.
The gales of November came early, yes indeed. As the ball back into the offensive zone, and it's kicked back by Lindsay View, and easy save for the goalie, and a kick that's deadened by the wind, but John Glenn is able to maintain control.
Well, like you talked about, Jeff, in terms of the conditioning and running and things like that. Now playing this game on Wednesday at 85 or 87 degrees and high humidity, and playing 80 minutes or 90 minutes, that can tap a roster pretty hard real quickly. And it kind of changes obviously weather changes events and athletic events pretty continuously.
Certainly the amount that you need to stretch before a game on colder weather will save
the
your hamstrings.
hydration and and now we see kids sitting on the bench and it's cold, so they go out there, they get warm, they get hot, now they sit down, and now what happens? You get instantly stiff. So yeah, we'll say less than ideal conditions, but at least it's not snowing.
Yes. Yeah, we do not have inclement season, so for that we are grateful.
There is no moisture in the air. That's a good thing.
Coming into the front, Jessica Herrick tried to get that ball through, and it is kicked out of bounds. That's Julie Herrick, excuse me. Back in central defense with a header, knocked that ball away, a little minor contact, and it's a play-on moment. Hunter Kukla trying to go to the corner is thwarted by Jenna Tilley from Bay City Central wearing the white. And that ball will go back to John Glenn. I never really saw an indication. Yeah. So that ball was tempted to be changed direction on a header.
Driven straight into the northeast breeze that's blowing up into the press box here.
Yes, what used to be the press box.
What used to be the press box.
On a day like today, having the press box would make a huge difference.
Little snack, little lunch, be even better.
And we can't have a snack because it would taste like it came out of the freezer before we had a chance to eat it. 11 minutes and change left in our first half. Jeff Doan and Sean Sullivan along with you. Produced, directed, and camera by Nick Page. Natalie Doan is doing the stats. And we're just having a great time trying to keep it all going. We've got Blankhorn here on the offense for Bay City Central, trying to make a nice move. And continuing on is Emma Miller. And that ball kicked away. Blankhorn using great body position to thwart off and shield off the defender. And a kick into the goal for Bay City Central. Puts them back up. I'll tell you, Kellen Blankhorn kept that play alive. And the Central goal is scored by Isabel Baranski. And the score at 2-1.
How's married life? Are you ready to have a baby? Baby, baby. How about that baby? Ooh. I'm not getting any younger.
When you are ready. With the only neonatal intensive care unit in the Great Lakes Bay region, Covenant is the safest place for your delivery. Go to mycovenantbaby.com.
As Bay City Central works their way with a big goal right back into the game.
Beautiful assist. Well deserved. Isabel Baranski is now playing up in a forward position. So they rotated her out of the back line. Obviously pays some dividends.
It is certainly worked on that offensive set. Of course, Isabel, no stranger to other sports too, as she's a great athlete at Bay City Central. So trying to continue to make things happen. Bay City Central just down by 1 now, as it's 2-1. Trying to get things back and rolling here as they're around midfield. And a ball knocked out of bounds. It'll go back over to John Glenn as we're nearing the 10-minute mark. And these two halves of ball seem to take a little bit of time.
Yes, they do. Even though the clock doesn't stop, 40 minutes is it's a long time.
You probably don't get a great long time at halftime enough to recharge the battery. You might get a quick snack.
It's about 10 minutes.
As back into the offensive zone comes Bay City Central. Cassidy Bear tried to make things happen, but good defense by John Glenn. And the ball will go back over to the Bay City Central Wolves, who are wearing the home white here in a game played at TL Handy's old football field, now the multi-sport complex here in Bay City. Ball out of bounds, and it'll go back over to John Glenn. 9.5 minutes left in our first half. There's a nice play. Dakota Cunningham looks to be a very talented player for John Glenn, and she's been in on a lot of the activity here in this first half. As the throw in. And again, trying to teach yourself when that ball's coming to use your body or your legs or anything but your hands to keep that ball from go in another direction. You know, you kind of give up the body a little bit. On a day like today, that ball's probably a little harder than it would be on an 80-degree day.
It's a little sensitive, yeah.
But there'll be a throw in for Central. As the ball is moving around right now. Cunningham tried to get that ball into their offensive zone. And Kellen Blankhorn tried to move that ball, but Josie Foss with a nice defensive play. Central back into the offense. Kicking that ball down was Elizabeth Gersel. As they try and get things into the offensive zone, Blankhorn sends it forward. Cassidy Barry, and that ball just rolls out of bounds. A little longer turf, they may have had an opportunity for a play.
Yeah, good use of width. Neither team is using their width exactly like they could be. This field is if 70 yards wide is the normal, this is about, I think this is 50. Football field is what, 53 yards wide?
Yeah, 53, 55.
So it's roughly,
right
you know,
so it's actually a little smaller than your normal field, and it's still huge.
Yes, it's still huge.
Out of bounds. That ball goes back over to John Glenn.
And you'd be surprised the way that influences with a change in dimension of a field. It can change the game a little bit.
Really spreads things out.
Well, in a 50-yard, you've got 4 people, let's say, defending 50 yards instead of 4 people defending 70 yards. So your responsibilities and your spacing becomes different. Especially the spacing. If you don't take advantage of that, you're kind of hurting yourself. You're hurting your scoring opportunities and your.
So obviously there's got to be a minimum regulation for the size of a field.
Right.
This has got to play in those parameters.
Yeah, and I think 50 is absolutely the minimum to be acceptable per FIFA.
There's another one up in the air. Bay City Central with another opportunity. A beautiful shot on goal. Isabel Baranski was looking for number 2, and a nice save by the John Glenn goalie. Out to Hunter Kukla. Kukla with a move, gets that ball over midfield, but just momentarily. As Bay City Central gets it back. Defense by Larissa Navarez for Bay City Central. Kellen Blankhorn put a move on. And
there she is.
Just a little bit shy of getting it to Blankhorn, who looked like she had a little bit of space. Baranski kicks that ball down, and it will be knocked out of bounds. And again, that gives an opportunity to reset your defense up. As we're now coming up on the 5-minute mark left in our first half of play.
A little known call or a little used offense just occurred right in front of that referee, called obstruction, or in hockey we would call it interference.
Interference, yeah.
Or in basketball we would call maybe an illegal pick or an illegal block or whatever. John Glenn player obstructed a player. She did not have the ball. She obstructed a Central player from getting to the ball by basically boxing her out. Well played.
As it's a 2-on-1. Offensively, kick just wide of the goal. Very well set up by the John Glenn Bobcats. Could not get it into the goal, though, as now we're approaching 4 minutes left in our first half of play. And one of the assistant referees comes down, and he's going to get that ball back into play. And another substitute for Bay City Central. And, you know, with only a couple of girls on the bench, it's tough. You know, you're almost forced to take your nucleus and run the whole game with them.
Yep.
And that was an issue with lacrosse when Central played Western a couple of weeks ago. Western, with about 9 more lacrosse players, makes a huge difference in the late in the quarters and the late in the halves, as they just dominated the game late. That's another game where you put a few miles on during the course of the activity. And to the front, there's a beautiful feed up to number 20, Hunter Kukla. And a nice job by the goalie. And when you say on, you mean onside.
She is onside. The referee put his hand forward. I like to compare the onside, offside soccer call to a moving blue line in hockey. The player cannot be behind the blue line without the ball. And if the ball is advanced to them while they're behind that last defender, then they're offsides.
I like the way you equate it to a moving line. It is.
It's
that ball got kicked again, and the wind took it and knocked it right out of bounds.
And for the average fan, nearly everything is offsides and a handball. Which, when you're coaching, it's like, please stop. You're making the official mad.
Yep, there's a lot of people that claim to be experts.
Yes.
As the ball will be inbounded by number 7, Taya Lowell.
Boom.
And that ball should go back to Bay City Central. As we've got less than 2 minutes left in our first half of play. As the Central Wolves try and get a late one to try and tie it up. They're down 2-1 in the first half. And legal contact.
Yeah.
At least that's what it was called.
A little obstruction or a little physical contact, sure.
So did he come up with a card?
No.
Okay, I
No,
couldn't
it's
tell
just
if
a
that's
foul.
what he was having
Just
in his
a foul.
hands. Okay.
Nope. He has his hands up for direct or indirect ball. Typically a physical contact call is a direct call, and a indirect call is typically a handball or something minor. And that matters when, if we're shooting on net on an indirect ball, that ball has to be touched by 2 people, which can be the kicker and someone else, to count as a goal if it goes through the net or across the goal line. And a direct ball only has to touch 1 person, and that can be the kicker.
Now down to the last 10 seconds. Can Bay City Central get one last opportunity? Blankhorn sends it near the goal. Baranski trying to get a second goal here in the first half. That's the end of our first half, as the John Glenn Bobcats with a 2-1 lead over Bay City Central. We'll take a break and come back with the Plum Harris Insurance halftime show right after this on BCTV.
Plum Harris Insurance Agency of Bay County is a proud sponsor of Bay County TV sports and your #1 option for all of your insurance needs. From home and auto to recreational vehicles, we can cover it all. Stop by our office location at 706 South Euclid Avenue or call us at 989-686-5850 to save hundreds on your insurance needs.
Welcome back to the Plum Harris Insurance halftime show here on BCTV. Jeff Doan and Sean Sullivan braving the elements here at halftime as the John Glenn Bobcats with a 2-1 lead at half.
Pretty good first half. Pretty well played. Yeah, a little interesting second half with the wind blowing at about a 40-mile-an-hour clip.
Do we switch ends?
And getting colder, yes. Each team switches ends. So now the advantages change sides. So we'll see how they take advantage of their advantages.
Well, and Bay City Central had the wind as close to at your back as you can. It's coming out of the northeast, so it's kind of a cross breeze, but they had the advantage of it. They found themselves down 2-0 as Dakota Cunningham scores the first goal, and then Hunter Kukla gets one. And John Glenn, who spent very little time in the offensive zone in the first half, obviously capitalized on their opportunities.
Yes, very few shots on net, but they made them count. And now they'll have the wind at their back in the second half, which is always fun. Let the ball fly.
Let the head ball fly. Isabel Baranski with a goal for Bay City Central, making it 2-1 before the half. Isabel had another couple of chances to add to that total. So, again, the first couple of minutes of the second half, I think both teams are going to try and readjust to now the wind changing directions in their favor or in their face. And both teams being evenly matched, this event is certainly up for grabs in the second half.
I think so. It appears that both sides are fairly well rested. They didn't expend a ton of energy as the temperature is only 50 or whatever. So
minus the wind chill, which might make it closer to 35.
Yeah.
So we're going to be back in just a minute. Second half is coming up in just a moment here on BCTV.
Plum Harris Insurance Agency of Bay County is a proud sponsor of Bay County TV sports and your #1 option for all of your insurance needs. From home and auto to recreational vehicles, we can cover it all. Stop by our office location at 706 South Euclid Avenue or call us at 989-686-5850 to save hundreds on your insurance needs.
Here we are back at Thomas Lincoln Handy Middle School, home of the Bay City Central Lady Wolves soccer team. Jeff Doan and Sean Sullivan along with you. We have got Nick Page producing, directing camera, and Natalie Doan doing the stats today. We're just all trying to keep moving and to stay warm. Now, Bay City Central gets the opening kick of the second half. How is that determined? Is that which team is behind, or is that the difference from the first half when John Glenn got
it's
the
like
kick?
in football. We play nice. And
is it a coin flip?
Yeah.
Okay. As the ball goes out of bounds, and the assistant referee points in the direction of John Glenn. So now, like the players, the announcers have got to change their mindset and switch the ends of the field for offense, as John Glenn will now be going from left to right in our second half. As it just continues to get colder here.
There it is.
The winter coats are out.
There
and
it is.
Nice break. Can Bay City Central defense get there before the offense from John Glenn does? Number 25 trying to get theirs. Weiniger. And Central will have the ball. As that one went up into the wind, and I think they found a little differential from throwing that thing in the first half. Having it take off, it was short of its intended target. Trying to move forward is Summer Sullivan.
Good center.
And good defense by Central to cut that off. Goalie from Bay City Central with the stop. And that kick in the first half was going just about out to midfield, and it got about half that distance.
Yeah, it's a little tougher.
I actually think the wind is picking up just a little bit.
It seems like it.
And, these young ladies, most of them are out there with the short sleeves, and I hope they stay running enough to be warm because I'm cold just watching them.
It's definitely messing with both of our hairdos, Jeffrey.
I know it.
That's a nice shot.
As that ball just goes over the hands of the Central goalie and into the net. That is Dakota Cunningham. She's got two. She might be getting another one away from a hat trick here.
That had some heat on it.
And again, I really think the differential in that goal being scored is the speed of that ball with the wind was underestimated by the Central goalie.
Absolutely.
AAA Transport and Limousine is the Great Lakes Bay region's most reliable and requested service. We provide many types of transportation services, from non-emergency medical, wheelchair accessible, school transport services, and shuttle services. Our company strives to provide exceptional service to our customers. Our services are tailored to each person or company's specific needs. For the last 10 years, we have pushed the mark higher and higher to give the best service possible. Rest assured that you are in safe hands when you ride with AAA Transport and Limousine.
It put a little lift on it too. It rose as it was headed toward the net.
Some contact did not affect the play, so play on. Is number 13 for Bay City Central. I think that might be Jasmine Rosenbrock as she comes up from the JV team. We don't have a 13. That may be the jersey that they gave her. I'm only speculating. As the Bobcats into the offensive zone with a 2-goal lead. We played 2.5 minutes in our second half. John Glenn on offense looking for some more. Great defensive play by Gersty. And getting back up just in enough time, and the flag goes straight up in the air. And did we have an infraction? Bay City Central's going to get their hands on the ball. Well, possession of the ball. Hands on the ball is the wrong phrasing.
Let's not call it hands on the ball. Unless she's the goalie. That's going to be a call.
There's Blankhorn. She's knocked to the ground, gets right back up, and she'll head down into the offensive zone. And at back wall for John Glenn, 4 wide defensively.
Ooh, that's a good ball.
As John Glenn trying to make things happen offensively, that ball kicked by Newell. Newell kicks that ball to Solomon. Solomon had that ball go out of bounds. Last touched by Weiniger. So a little contact, but Central trying to maintain offense, and John Glenn finding a little bit easier with the wind at their back to make things happen offensively. That was a nice move by Hunter Kukla. As Bay City Central just kicked that ball long out of play, and
first corner.
As that ball gets into the corner, and a young man will come and offer the ball. So they'll call that a corner kick?
This is a corner kick. Now you got wind across their face, which will make this very interesting.
A very hookable ball.
Yes.
This is probably coming out of the corner is going to look like one of Mike Guasdala's wedge shots that he's intending to go straight with.
He can't protect himself. He's not here. Oh, wow.
He's used to it.
Oh, that's a beauty.
That is a very nicely done kick, just a little bit too strong. And it went past the goal before anybody with contact with an opportunity, but that was a plenty strong kick going from the corner.
Yep. And there's the disadvantage of the less width of the field and the wind screaming like it is. So that ball took off and all of a sudden ends up on the backside of the net, which is usually pretty tough to do.
And on a 70-wide field, I do think that would have made a huge difference. That would have been right in the center of the net area.
Oh, that would have been a beautiful ball at 70 yards wide.
As into the offensive zone, Hunter Kukla, who's been active in this game, trying to get to the outside, gets a little bit of space, sends the ball back into the middle of the field, where Josie Foss with the kick. And Central defense back just in enough time to thwart another offensive opportunity. As defensively for Bay City Central, trying to make it happen is Megan Grew. And she's a very active player on the field, kind of holding her side a little bit. Maybe just trying to catch a quick blow and right back to the activity. Central on defense. Grew does a nice job of controlling the ball. And it's kicked out of bounds. I don't know who we got. They're looking around right now. No signal, so I think they're going to trust the sportsmanship aspect of where that touched last. I was kind of thinking that might be a Central ball. That one definitely will go back over, as it will be off to just the side of the net now. Totally different from the other side kick, because you're trying to kick this one into the wind.
Yes.
As the ball kicked down and just getting her head out of the way, and time is right in front of the goal. It gets out there. And another opportunity just wide of the net. Dakota Cunningham with that great opportunity. And it will be back out of bounds. And I think they're going to give that ball to John Glenn.
They must have got touched down by the goal box.
I did not.
Now this changes. When I watch this, Jeffrey, from here, now she's going to be kicking into the wind. So it would be wise to play a short ball, but I don't think they're going to.
Nope.
And that's still a pretty nice ball.
That's a great kick and a nice
Good
header
save.
Defensively.
Defensive save.
And the young man should have caught the ball before he returned the other one. He could have saved himself a whole lot of running.
I think he's going to need to go to Mr. Hot Dog.
Yeah, he will definitely need something to snack on after this one's done. He's had his share of running, and we've still got 32 minutes in the second half. 3-1 our score. John Glenn over Bay City Central. Glad to have you along on our first ever BCTV. And you're going to try and kick this ball a little bit more towards the 18-yard line.
I'd put this high in the box. Oh, that's a nice ball. That's a really nice ball. Still alive.
As the ball around, and Dakota Cunningham had an opportunity. Central finally gets that ball out of harm's way. And Grew coming down the field just overran it a little bit. Fights back with another opportunity. And Dakota Cunningham, who looks to be one of the more talented players on the field, gets an offensive opportunity. And Bay City Central, for the moment, gets that ball back out of harm's way. That ball out and trying to settle it down as it's being kicked back and forth, and the last minute or so been played in a real small area.
The field is definitely slanted to the south, to the pool side.
Yes. As it's inbounded to Josie Foss. Moved around right now. A nice kick that time by Hunter Kukla, trying to get her second goal of the game. And a substitution coming in for John Glenn, number 31, Julie Herrick. And I don't know, when you come out of the game, do you want to sit down or do you want to just walk up and down the sidelines and try and keep the adrenaline going?
It depends on when you're going back in.
Well, and only through a long course of a year would you be able to speculate how long that break would be as the ball goes out of bounds, and it'll go back over to the John Glenn Bobcats.
Right. With high school soccer, you can substitute 1,000 times a game if you'd like. That's not the way it is in professional soccer, even college soccer. But some of these girls, when they come out, they might be out for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And yeah.
Narvaez in the corner. She will inbound the ball. Nope, she passes it off. Trying to get that ball into Megan Gruhl.
Good ball.
Has a long ball kicked, and nice stop by the goalie for John Glenn.
Nobody home.
That's where you're hoping for that redirection as that ball comes into the middle in front of the crease.
Might not be a pretty goal from there.
They all count.
They all count. All they have to do is cross the finish line.
As getting into the offensive zone is number 23, Summer Solomon. And that ball knocked out of bounds. And last touched by Newell. Abigail. So Bay City Central will get that ball in. And Grew can't quite keep it. And she's going to get the ball back, and she draws the crowd when she's got the ball in her possession. They understand she's one of the talented players on that Central team.
It's got to be a touch frustrating, too.
Well, and when you don't have 4 or 5 girls on the sideline to at least allow your girls to get just a quick blow, I mean, even if it's 60 or 90 seconds, as the ball came in, a nice play by the Central goaltender was not going to allow the wind to be a factor in the ball changing directions. Group trying to come up over the center line. Does bring it into the offensive zone. Nice forward pass.
That's a good ball. There's nobody there.
The goalie from John Glenn says, I'm not going to play it. I'm just going to kick it.
I'm going to hammer it.
So kicks it out of harm's way, and Bay City Central will do a quick substitution. As we've played about 1/4 of our second half with the score John Glenn 3 and Central 1. Glad to have you along on this chilly, wind-swept afternoon at Thomas Lincoln Handy Middle School. That will be a turnover. We'll give the ball back to John Glenn. There's quite a bit better kick going with the wind, obviously, as the wind is blowing from left to right. Central trying to get something going offensively, and
there you go.
Nice job trying to jump that play by Cassidy Berry. But not much able to happen there. As Central now has 2 number 19s. So that is the other possibility for Jasmine Rosecrans. As apparently you can have 2 of the same number on the field.
It's not like basketball, is it?
Yes,
or football.
Indeed. As that ball goes out of bounds and goes back over to Central. 26 minutes left in our first half. And ooh, that'll hit the side of the old hip flexor when you whiff on that ball that you're trying to kick a half a mile.
At 45 degrees.
As Central can't get anything going, and you know what you've got in a nice forward pass, trying to get that thing to Solomon. Solomon races to the corner, and she's able to touch it first and save it momentarily. But the ball will go back over to Bay City Central. They'll bring that thing, nope, I thought maybe they'd get it to the goalie, but they're just going to free kick it out of their own end. Nice low line drive. You can tell that thing hit the wind and just dropped straight down to the ground as Grew gets the ball out. Bay City Central with an opportunity offensively. They get it right back to Grew. And Blankhorn faked like she was going to kick it and went back to Grew. And a nice kick forward as now John Glenn will knock that ball out of bounds. Last hit by Bay City Central, though. And John Glenn will have possession of the ball as we've got 24 minutes and change left in our second half. And pretty safe to say on the way home there'll be a few cars with the heater on. As that wind chill's got to be down 40 degrees or less. As trying to get the ball into the offense right now, kicked out of bounds. And that was number 24, Abigail Newell. So Central will inbound the ball. And Gerstel tried to get possession of the ball. And a nice move by number 20, Hunter Kukla. Baranski kicked that ball away momentarily. Back to Kukla. Nice job by the goalie as that thing was halfway past her and just got her mitts on it enough, Sean, to stop that thing from going into the net. That would have been a huge goal for John Glenn to gain a 3-goal advantage.
That could have been the icing on the cake.
Icing on the cold cake, yes.
On the very cold cake.
Central still only down 2 with an opportunity to stay in this game. But John Glenn with many more offensive opportunities with the wind at their back here in the second half, as Bay City Central will get possession again as we're at about the 23-minute mark of the second half. 3-1, John Glenn over Bay City Central. Blankhorn just a split second late to the ball as it was tipped back by Hagenauer. Into the offense. It is Dakota Cunningham. She kicks it into the corner. And Central kicks that ball out, but staying in play as Grew, who's been one of the better players for Bay City Central today, takes off on offense, and it's a 4-on-3. So they've got an opportunity to make things happen, and the ball kicked out of bounds, and it will go back over to Bay City Central wearing the home white, John Glenn in the blue this afternoon.
Little push from behind. They get a free kick. That would look really nice at the net.
And I would say if you kick that thing to about the right upright on the goalpost, it'll come right back in front of the net.
And the window sweeper down.
Get that thing
number
high.
5 on the backside right there, a little garbage goal.
Yep.
Make it 3-2.
See if she becomes a factor in this play. And that would be Lindsay View. And not enough there, and just
left
missed
foot
by Cassidy Berry. Central with a great opportunity to pull within one goal. But very quickly getting it out. And Dakota Cunningham kicks it forward to number 21, Jessica Herrick. Now trying to set it up in the offensive zone. Obviously keeping it in play on that far side. It's a little tough to tell where the sideline is, but they're playing on. Oh! A beautiful header by number 20, Hunter Kukla. How about that setup?
Love it.
That is the second goal for her as well as Dakota Cunningham. So each with 2 goals, and I'll tell you, that was a thing of beauty.
That's an ice cream goal. That's worthy of treats after the game.
Plum Harris Insurance Agency of Bay County is a proud sponsor of Bay County TV sports and your #1 option for all of your insurance needs. From home and auto to recreational vehicles, we can cover it all. Stop by our office location at 706 South Euclid Avenue or call us at 989-686-5850 to save hundreds on your insurance needs.
And that's a huge goal, too, because giving John Glenn a 3-goal lead, it's going to be tough for Bay City Central with 21 minutes left in the game to get back into it. So coming out for just a minute is Hunter Kukla after scoring that second goal. And, you know, the goal's pretty, but how about the feed?
Yeah.
Blankhorn with a nice shot on goal. Great angle for the goalie. Now going to get a little kick and kick that thing out near the midfield line. Central looks just a little bit slower right now, like maybe fatigue might be becoming a small factor in this second half. As getting up very, very slowly. Back on the other side, I don't know if she was tripped up or just fell and came down awkwardly. I think that might be Kellen Blankhorn. As this will temporarily stop play, we'll be back in just a minute here on BCTV.
Where did this rash come from?
Hold on, let me see. Could be bed bugs.
Oh. Mom, Grant says I have bed bugs.
Let's see what the doctor says.
Introducing Covenant Virtual Care. Real-time video doctor visits, e-prescriptions, and follow-up. Now extraordinary care comes to you.
See, it's just poison ivy. Smart advanced.
Learn more at covenantvirtualcare.com.
Back here on BCTV, Jeff Doan and Sean Sullivan along with you as Kellen Blankhorn comes off the field as she kind of came down on her head a little bit awkwardly. Good to see she's okay as the training staff from Central came and checked her out. So Bay City Central will get possession of the ball as Dakota Cunningham kicked that ball out of bounds. It'll go back to Bay City Central as time has resumed in the game. And we are halfway through the second half with John Glenn with a 4-1 lead over Bay City Central as that ball goes out of bounds, and it will go back over to John Glenn as Bay City Central might need to take a few chances offensively to see if they can get a quick goal to get back into this game, because with 20 minutes left they've got to hit the back of the net 3 times and keep John Glenn out of the goal for them to have an opportunity to come back and earn just a tie, and that will be a tall order the way John Glenn is playing. And again, this John Glenn club is extremely young, and they are going to be hurt from for a couple of years. But Dakota Cunningham is a senior. Hunter Kukla only a junior, though, so she'll be back for another campaign. Another shot on goal and a pretty easy save for Central's goalie. As that ball is kicked, and again, you can see what a huge factor the wind is, Sean, knocking that ball down. Not nearly the length they got in the first half going with the wind.
Almost the entire game has been played to our right.
Yes. And that's why almost if John Glenn wins that toss in the first half, you would think that you would want that wind in the second half in case you needed it to come back. And we did not see that toss as Dakota Cunningham comes out of the ball game for just a minute. As that ball kicks down, it is out of bounds, and it will go back over to John Glenn as the time just keeps ticking away. And trying to pursue that ball, and it goes back out to near midfield. As John Glenn tries to keep that ball in the offensive zone, and Bay City Central kicks it back over the midline and playing defense, and then kind of jumping up into the play was number 7, Taya Lowell. She wanted to be part of the activity, thought they had a chance to get an odd person rush towards the goal. And she settles back into her defense. Looks like Kellen Blankhorn set to come back in for Central at the next stoppage of play, along with number 31, Julie Herrick. And it looks like number 21, Jessica Herrick. Probably not related.
I think they're straight up sisters. And they got none of their athletic skills from their father.
And that's probably a good thing. As John Glenn back on offense with another opportunity.
I hope you taped this, Mark, because that was a shot on you, brother.
Well, you know why we do that? Because we can.
Yes.
Ball out of bounds, and we'll go back over to Bay City Central again. Time starting to become a factor. 16 and a half minutes left in the second half.
Uh-oh.
And that's onside. Kellen Blankhorn trying to get down.
Take
1
an
on
angle.
4
Take an
defenders.
angle. There you go.
Just kick it out of
Quickly.
bounds and live for another day.
Where's my ball, boy?
He's down chasing one at the other end, and you don't want to put a pedometer on that young man because he may have outrun the players today in the game.
He ran so fast his hat fell off.
Yep, he ran right out of his hat. So Bay City Central getting ready to inbound the ball. That's Samantha Olson. And I'll tell you, Gru just with some great moves, but when you're surrounded by 3, there's not a lot you can do. Trying to go back down at the other end.
Wow.
Central doing a nice job. Unfortunately, number 9, I do not have a number for her. looked twice and not there, so unfortunately I can't give any credit to her, but making a nice play. Now again, you look and that ball goes into the offensive zone and nobody from Central there and 4 defenders. So it's a little tough to score when that happens.
Yep. A lot of blue shirts.
Ball out of bounds and there was a little bit of contact. Will John Glenn get their hands back on the ball? Yes, they will.
Yep.
Abigail Newell kind of nicked up a little bit, and when it's cold, those nicks affect you a little differently than when it's 75. Never to think that any gamesmanship would go into trying to facilitate a call. That would never happen, would it, Sean?
No.
That ball out of bounds will go back over to Bay City Central. Again, 14 and a half minutes left in the game, as those that are in attendance are in late November football weather gear, as it is just flat out cold and an ugly day for soccer, but great to have these two teams out here, the combatants going back and forth. And Bay City Central needs to find some instant offense with 14 minutes left in the regulation. They've got to come up with 3 goals as they're down 4-1. And John Glenn may be going into a tad bit more of a defensive shell right here, which is certainly a good move when you're up 3 with 13 and a half left in the game.
The Lady Wolves need to find a little juice.
There's another
Ramp
shot
it
on
up.
goal. And again, I think that juice comes from taking a few chances. You might need to send an extra defender to the offensive zone to try and create that odd person rush. And Grew trying to make things happen offensively. And just enough by the John Glenn defense to now transition into offense. And they don't need a lot of shots on goal. They just need to keep the ball down on this end of the field. And Central would have a tough time scoring from past midfield. As we're at the 13-minute mark, Central again trying to make what they can happen. Julie Herrick had that ball kicked away, and
there it is.
Gruel just doing a tremendous job. Grew. All right. That's why I've got my assistant here. As there's a nice little change of pace move. Flip that thing back to the safe play to Baranski. Bay City Central trying to move things in. Blankhorn couldn't get it. Ball out of bounds. And again, in this sport, reminding people that the clock continues to move when that ball's out of bounds, so you have to try and do what you can to expedite getting it back into play.
Yep. Sometimes people will actually kick the ball out of bounds to burn the clock.
On purpose.
Yes.
That
Can you
is
imagine?
a strategy. Keep playing catch with the fence, huh?
I've played at fields before where the ball goes 50 yards out of bounds and you're down by a goal. It's a little frustrating.
As the Gruel just about had an opportunity to get between 2 defenders, and it was just stopped in time, and there will be not a penalty, but a ball back over to John Glenn with a little contact. As the officials trying to be as well prepared for the weather as they can. I saw them trying to put multiple layers of clothing on, and this ought to be quite the booming kick, and that is a healthy kick. Bay City Central doing a nice job of bringing that ball out again. Narvaez gets it to Blankhorn. Blankhorn kicks the ball forward. And the goalie for John Glenn is going to get there before anybody from Central can. As they saw the goalie was going to get there, they just backed off and tried to get into more strategic position. As trying to move the ball around is Cusrow. And And the ball taken back by Bay City Central's Isabel Baranski. And she's got the lone Central goal in this game. Narvaez into the side, trying to make something happen, and the ball going right down the sideline, hugging the line. And very quickly transitioned back into the offense and couldn't keep it in, so you might as well just give it a little love tap, kick it a little farther out of bounds, and we're at 10 minutes and counting left in this regulation here with John Glenn Bobcats on top 4-1 over the Bay City Central Wolves, and a game being played at TL Handy Intermediate School, and it is bitter cold conditions for a soccer game, and if they could have played earlier in the week they would have been sweating out there, which I'm certain they would prefer to freezing. Kellen Blankhorn trying to get that ball to Grew. It's good effort as Samantha Olson was there along with Jasmine Rosenbrock. And out of bounds goes back over to John Glenn. Nice little pass in from the side, and Bay City Central right now with a 2-on-3 rush. And Blankhorn with a nice move, and she just gets tripped up a little bit and unable to finish, but she had a nice move. If she could have maintained her balance, she had a shot on goal.
Uh-oh.
As that's a good one.
She's on.
Yeah, nice job defensively by Grew getting all the way back.
Nice play.
And again, trying to thunder kick that thing into a big old breeze is not good. Isabel Baranski trying to get that ball back for Bay City Central. And there is a high, long kick, and that is going to sail out of bounds and cause the young ball boy an opportunity to chase it down and get the other ball in play. And that hat's been kind of tough keeping him on his head. He's running so much and so fast, he's run right out of his hat a few times. 8 minutes left in regulation. Central still down 3. Trying to make things happen here. And they've got to get the ball on the other side of midfield to have an opportunity. A nice long kick off the post. And then the rebounded shot was sent in by, trying to see her turn around, 21, Jessica Herrick, who just came in a few minutes ago and had an opportunity to score a goal off a rebound on the post. And again, I think that without the wind, that definitely tucks itself into the net. But that first shot that hit the post had every opportunity till it hit a gust of wind. Herrick coming back, trying with another opportunity, and the ball knocked out of bounds. Last touched by Herrick, and we'll go back over to Bay City Central with 7 minutes left in the regulation. Looking for a hat trick with a nice move, Dakota Cunningham. That ball kicked out of bounds, and we'll go back over to John Glenn.
That'll be a corner kick for John Glenn.
I want to see another corner kick from the other side. That was pretty to watch that thing hook in the breeze. So we'll see if they can get that thing near the middle. We've got a substitute. Oh, you got to get to a certain spot before you can
in the middle.
Deem yourself ready for play. Look at the hook on that ball, as Bay City Central doing a very nice job of getting that out of harm's way. As it looked like John Glenn was pinching a little bit, Central would have had an opportunity. Now here comes Baranski with a nice move. It's 2-on-3 down the field, and Baranski slows down looking for some offensive help.
That's a good ball.
And just getting there a half second late was Kellen Blankhorn. A nice setup, though, into the wind. 5:45 and counting left in the regulation of the match. The ball kicked out of bounds, and Be another opportunity with that ball on the side to bring it in, and we finally have a break for a substitute, and that is Samantha Olson coming into the game for Bay City Central. As Central gets that ball in, and there's some contact, and play on. That one was a little baffling because that was more than just incidental contact, I thought. And the referee just does the old infamous hands, palms out, saying, I didn't think there was anything there. Well, I guess that's his opinion. As Baranski chases the ball into the sideline again as it goes out of bounds, back over to Central. Body language suggested the John Glenn girls were ready to jump on it and head down the other way. But a big long kick again. And Grew back on defense, at least kicks it back into the John Glenn side. And Dakota Cunningham is just going to pass that off, and they're going to kick it deep and just try and eat some clock, I'm certain, at this point, as Central on offense looking at a 2-on-4. And they send that thing off to the near side of the field, and not much happening there. And see, there is just a great move. It's onside, and they tried to hit Herrick. And even if they don't, it's just one of those things that chews up clock. Nice job to keep that ball in bounds with two nice moves. And Dakota Cunningham puts that in front of the net. No misdirection there. And Central gets their hands back on it with 3.5 minutes left in regulation. An extremely chilly day at Central as Blankhorn goes down again. And I'll tell you what, she might need the ice bath after this one.
She's kind of a magnet, isn't she?
She is. Found contact a few times, but she handles it well. Central again cannot get past that back line of 4. That has just been a solid wall of defense for John Glenn here. Opportunity for Central to make something happen, and again, just a great job of kicking it out. Herrick gets that ball to Cunningham. And they slide that thing over the midcourt line. Herrick tried to kick that ball deep, didn't quite get enough of it. And Bay City Central again can't penetrate that back wall. As we just see another major gust of wind. As Central trying one last shot here with Baranski to try and get against. It's 3-on-7. You don't like the odds at 3-on-7 as that ball goes out behind the back line. And got a substitute coming into the ball game for Bay City Central. That's going to be Cassidy Berry. As we're mercifully down to 2 minutes left in this game, 4-1, John Glenn on top over Bay City Central. The youthful team from John Glenn has fared very well in this match today. As that shot was hit out of bounds off the head of Baranski, and she reached for her head after that hit because that had a little steam on it when it came her way. And that's Cassidy Berry. Chasing it down is Alyssa Hagenauer, kicking it into the offensive zone for John Glenn. It's still working hard. It's Dakota Cunningham into the final minute of our second half here. He's chasing it down is number 25, Hagenauer. Hagenauer keeping it alive.
Goal kick.
And they'll give that thing back over to Central for a goal kick. And very quickly they want to get that thing going. As a break for Bay City Central as the ball was miskicked. by Mackenzie Dorr. Mercifully, 30 ticks left in this ball game. As Cassidy Berry tried to kick that ball forward. Great move just to kick this thing deep with the final 15 ticks left in the match. Bay City Central, will they at least have an opportunity to get down one more time? They should not have time now, as that back wall with 2 seconds, 1 second and 0. That's all there is. There isn't any more in this ball game. John Glenn with a 4-1 victory over Bay City Central. We're going to come back in just a minute, and we'll wrap up all the action right here on BCTV.
Plum Harris Insurance Agency of Bay County is a proud sponsor of Bay County TV Sports and your #1 option for all of your insurance needs. From home and auto to recreational vehicles, we can cover it all. Stop by our office location at 706 South Euclid Avenue or call us at 989-686-5850 to save hundreds on your insurance needs.
Welcome back to our post-game show here on BCTV, and Jeff Doan and Sean Sullivan, as we have decided to forego the fashionable attire for that of warmth. And boy, the combatants tonight, you got to give them a lot of credit for playing in shorts and a t-shirt on this bitter cold day.
Yeah, not very comfortable.
That's putting it rather mildly, but John Glenn very opportunistic on a few opportunities in the first half, came up with goals from Dakota Cunningham and Hunter Kukla. And Central with a late first half goal by Isabel Baranski. Looked like Central was going to work their way back in, but was not to be.
Dominant second half by the John Glenn Bobcat girls. Made their opportunities count even more in the second half. Took advantage of the wind. I think if it's a normal weather day, I think this might be a little different game. If the wind isn't ripping through here at 35 miles an hour or whatever it is.
It was plenty bad. And Dakota Cunningham and Hunter Kukla both with second half goals as well. So those two girls offensively were all John Glenn needed today.
Yep, that's all they needed.
So that about puts the wraps on it. We're going to go trying to find some heat, but it's a pleasure to have you along, Sean, doing our first ever soccer game here on BCTV, and we'll look forward to more fun in the future. So on behalf of the whole crew, I'm Jeff Doan, along with Sean Sullivan and Nick Page to produce, direct, camera, Natalie Doan doing the stats tonight. We thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.